Good morning. You know, I love Robert Fulghum and the stories that he tells as a pastor. And he tells a story of when he was counseling a couple who were going to be getting married, Jack and Nancy. Neither one had ever been married before, both now, or he was in his middle 40s, she was just turning 40. It was their first time. They'd seen so many friends get married and then they went through difficult divorces. They didn't want that to happen. But they knew at this age, they'd already settled into a lot of their own routines and their own ways. So they got together to be with Robert and try to work out, what are we going to change? Who's going to give up what for the other person? So that maybe they'd kind of know right up front, here's what we've all agreed on, I'll change, you change, we're going to work this out. Well, in the end, they put a top 10 things they felt was the most important. The most important to Jack was number 7, because it said kids or pets, but not both. You see, Jack was not a nurturer. Nancy was. But he felt, get this in, either kids or pets, but we're not going to do both. She agreed. 3 years later, they had 2 beautiful little girls, and Nancy was having a ball. And what Jack even discovered about himself was he loved doting on his little girls. Well, Nancy worked very hard to be involved in their life as these years would go by. She became very involved in their school and in the PTA. And one year they were having a fundraiser, and she wanted to find something she could do to help raise some money for the school. And she thought, I know dogs. I love dogs. I bet I could go down to the pound. I could find this dog. I could get it shots and a leash, and I bet we could sell it for a lot of money. And so she did. She went down and found this Weimaraner and half lab. And I mean, this dog was going to be a big dog, but it was a loving puppy, 4 months old. She got the shots. She got the leash. She brought her home, and Nancy just loved this little dog. Well, they had to have the dog for several days before they were going to go to the PTA big auction. And the dog around the house started being a puppy, chewing on Jack's shoes and then chewing on the leather ottoman. Jack was ready for this dog to go. But what really made him uncomfortable and anxious was how much the little girls fell in love with his dog. He could just tell how much they were playing with his dog. He could tell how much his wife was loving his dog. It would have made him real concerned, but he remembered, I have number 7. Pets or children, but not both. The night finally came for the big auction, and Nancy went on to get things ready to go. He had to wait and bring the dog, and he brought the dog, and the dog was left in the car for a little while as he went in to see how it was going. When he came out, that little dog had already been chewing on his leather steering wheel. He brought the dog in and said, it's time to auction the dog now. Doesn't matter if it's supposed to go later, it's time to auction the dog now. And so the auctioneer stood up and began to auction 200, 200, give me 2, who give me 250 back over here, who give me 3, who give me 350. His wife Nancy was sitting there on the stage holding this dog, and now the tears started streaming down her cheek. This dog was lapping up the tears. She looked out at Jack, who was sitting on the front row, and she just started saying, oh, Jack, oh, Jack, I love this dog, Jack. At that moment, everybody knew where that dog was going home. And so all their friends started helping jump in. I'll give you 400. I'll give you 500. I'll bid 600. I'll give you 800. Everybody started bidding on this dog. And they were running the price up. They got it up to $1,500. $1,500. $1,500 going once, $1,500 going twice. And by now, Nancy's sitting here and she's just really sobbing. The dog is licking her tears and she's going, Jack, Jack. 1505. Sold right there to the man in the front row. Jack had just bought himself a dog for $1,505 after he'd already spent $260 to get the dog and his shots. He didn't want the dog. He had number 7. It said children or pets, but not both. Nancy jumped up and she fell off the front of the stage, literally into his lap with the dog. Everyone was laughing and clapping. They took the dog home. The dog grew to be so big, the little girls couldn't walk the dog. Nancy couldn't walk the dog. They named the dog Marilyn. In the end, Jack came home from work every day and he had to go walk the dog. And sometimes while he was walking the dog, he'd ask himself, how did this happen? I had number 7. I had number 7. But what Jack didn't realize was there in the fine print at the bottom of the contract, it said, Love means you're willing to sacrifice for somebody else, and that makes everything else null and void in the contract. Yeah, love is when you're willing to sacrifice your happiness for the happiness of those that you love. As people of faith, that's what we certainly understand. It was the founder of our whole religion, Jesus, who was willing to sacrifice for those of us he loved. And it's when you and I remember to sacrifice for those that we love that I can assure you the holidays are going to go far better when we don't just think of ourselves, but because we love, we're willing to sacrifice for one another.